Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Syl Sabastian joining us here again, the founder and creator of Nobelia.org. That's Nobelia.org. Excited to have him here. And really, he's going to talk to us today about the Moreness-Project, how he's here to help you change your life through all his programs. And he's an author, he's a poet, and just an amazing energy, as you'll get to know. And
Thank you.
Such a kind soul. Hi, Syl. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know, it's interesting you mentioned the energy because this is one of the most important things that I do. For instance, way of impeccability. That's what it's all about. Impeccability, as I define it here at its core. I mean, I have other definitions of it, which maybe I'll share that in a moment. But at its core, impeccability is the best use of energy. Very simple, right? Best use of energy. So when we think about it, if you being inefficient, that's obviously not good. Ineffective is not good. But where more so? What about inappropriate moods, inappropriate attitudes? Yeah. If jealousy, how much energy doesn't jealousy take, for instance, right? Sucks your energy like crazy. Envy, same thing. Envy, jealousy, same thing, right? You're always being bothered or resentment or regret. These are like programs running on your computer, slowing it down, right? Very same logic. Very same logic. So it's very, very helpful to understand this. And now when you start to pay attention, hey, where am I using my energy? What am I doing with my energy? Am I using my energy in an appropriate manner? Is it effective? Am I spending energy or am I investing energy?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. See, that changes it. That changes it quite profoundly. It's a big deal, in other words, energy and energy management. It's one of those core conceptions that's in the Dictionary of Power for any participant of Way of Impeccability. But you can make your own Dictionary of Power. You don't have to be in Way of Impeccability to do it. I was making a list last night of all the books that I've already written that I'm going to be publishing. It came out to a long list, or that I want to publish soon. And I came to about 25 books, actually. So it's quite a lot.
Oh, my gosh.
I've published 2. I'm about to publish another 2 more. But yeah, I've got so many that are already written. I spent a great deal of time at one point doing a lot of writing, knowing I'll publish later. So now starting to get to that time to publish. I want to share a bit more about impeccability, but I don't know what happened to it. No,
that's okay. We got it.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. I had a nice. Well, it's a little puzzling. This must have been pulling up an old file then.
Oh.
So I save. As one of the things I want to publish. What I made when I started writing, especially when I first started writing the Biella series, which is a fictional series, I started. In my comments on Facebook or on my blog or wherever, I discuss things and then I'd share a quote from the book. And sometimes I would just come up with something that the character would say. And I said, wow, that sounds like a Biella quote. And then I started putting them down. I said, well, I'll put this into the story later. But then the file just kind of grew and grew and grew. And now it's this huge, great big file with tons of things in it, which is pretty cool. It's quite excellent. When I'm going to publish that at some point. It's just a lot. I think it's like, it's 94,000 words of quotes. It's just from all the different characters. It's fun stuff. Just simple things sometimes. But we're talking about Moreness, right? So here's a quote from Biella. Moreness is a huge treasure, precious, inordinately so, especially when discovered in another. It has that little twist, you see.
It does.
And that's the thing. So part of Way of Impeccability, we'll jump ahead a little bit because we're going through it. But there is a session on self-quoting. And the learning to self-quote is very, very powerful. And it's huge. It makes a massive difference. And it's very helpful to learn to self-quote. Because when you put something in a quotable form, there's a logic to it. There's a style to it. A quote is something which is memorable, right? It's not only memorable, but it's also nicely written. It grabs your attention. It's a mnemonic device, as in other words, right? Helps you remember it, helps you connect to it, helps you integrate it. But it mainly focuses you and makes you aware of something that's, wow, that's a little more than I thought, right? So
Yeah.
okay, the first part of that quote is pretty standard, but just talking about moreness, it's very precious. Well, duh,
Mm-hmm.
moreness is precious, right? But then
Yeah.
the last part says, especially when we see it in another.
Okay.
Now, wow, I never thought to look for moreness in others. Okay, it's possible, it's there, and it's part of what I do, and part of, when I train people to do, especially, I have a program that trains people to be counselors. Well, it's not, somebody who's, or it's for people who are already doing therapy and counselors, but to go a bit further, well, go a lot further, really. It's called capital H hearing and helping. So when you do this, you learn to really perceive others, and that's crucial. It's absolutely crucial. You want to really see past the surface,
Yeah.
past how they are behaving, and see right inside there, and see that moreness, and connect to that moreness, and not only see it and connect to it, but be able to create space for it. So a big part of that is capital H hearing, which is, it's obviously past just hearing the words, right? It's making sure that the other person feels heard, not is heard,
Okay.
feels heard. A big
Okay.
difference, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
might say, well, okay, I can see that you hear me, but I still don't feel heard. That means you're not finished yet with whatever needs to come out, right? I heard you, and I've heard you, but you don't feel heard. So feeling heard is something that comes from the other person, right? It's internal. So sometimes, even though they know they've been heard, they have to keep going and keep going and keep going. And you'd be amazed how long that can take sometimes. But if one has that patience, that diligence, and that discipline
Yeah.
to stay in it and pay attention, because you have to really pay attention to hear somebody. You have
For
to listen
sure.
past what they're saying. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
because what we say and what we mean, two different things. We don't always have the ability to express our real self, not to really get to that issue that's bothering us. I don't even know what it is myself, right? So until I feel heard,
Mm-hmm.
then I can relax. But I don't know what it is, like a mystery. So you have to keep going, you have to keep going, you have to keep going. And this feeling heard is really, really a huge deal for people. It's massive. We very seldom feel heard. We get heard, but we don't always feel heard, because who wants to take the time? Yeah. I mean, sometimes, you go to your therapist and it's 45 minutes and then it's up and done. I never got that. 45 minutes, way too short. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
it's just dreadful. So to me, or the Zoom sessions are 2 hours, because at 45 minutes, really, it's quite amazing. It's just when things start to get started. It's just when it starts to get interesting, and you've sort of laid the groundwork, you're starting
Yeah.
to get comfortable, and then it goes. And sometimes it'll go longer than the 2 hours, all depending. But usually 2 hours is, or a little more, 2.5, sometimes, it's enough. But, again, if it's not, we'll stick with it until there's resolution, because sometimes you do need to. You can't come the next day. It's lost all that energy. It's very hard to start again from where you were. So it's sometimes very important to do it then, in the time. Very important. Anyhow, I want to, so this part of hearing, I was saying it for another reason, but I
Oh.
don't remember now what it is. Oh,
And
there
I'm
was
not. I
something
don't
else I
remember.
want to say.
Okay. Okay.
Part of hearing is not just listening to what somebody's saying.
Okay.
It's listen to what they mean. But more than what they mean, you have to also figure out what they don't realize yet, what they're not
Yeah.
saying. So you have to listen to what's not being said.
Mm-hmm.
That's very powerful.
You're right.
Furthermore, right, so that's one part of that whole program. It's a huge program. It's very detailed, very sophisticated program. But another massive part is making space. My job is to make space for you to be able to share, for you to be able to connect, for you to be heard, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
don't make appropriate space, then that's not going to happen. So in that space, you're making a space to say, yeah, you can share anything. Yeah, you can talk about anything. Yeah, you can be wrong. Yeah, you can be stupid. That's very hard for a lot of people, and they feel they never get to say things which they want to say. Yeah, you can share about your shame, your guilt, whatever, but also, yeah, you can share about your moreness. I ask the participants, it's like one of the tasks is to brag about yourself. deliberately, right? So
Mhm.
we as good people, if you got some humility and modesty, it's very difficult to brag about stuff. Now you deal with celebrities. They know how to say positive things about themselves, right? They know how
Yeah.
to brag about themselves in a positive way. It's a skill, and they know how to do it, and you can see it and recognize it. But for most people, well, it's very difficult to do that. So, but when it's a task and an exercise, okay, now you kind of have to do it. So not have to, but there's a leverage that helps you, and it's very powerful. So I asked a specific question. Well, I'll ask you, Jill.
Sure.
It's tested on Jill. Jill can be the guinea pig. Yes,
Go
yes,
for it.
yes.
Go for it.
Right. So share something that you feel is exceptional, extraordinary, wonderful about you, but that's not obvious and that maybe others don't really see, and maybe you can't prove it, but you feel is legitimate and true about you.
What I feel?
Yes.
I feel
All right.
what's
Well, hang
Oh,
on.
I don't know if you were
Let's
asking me or we were just talking about, wow, now you got me thinking. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll give you
I
an
have to say.
example. I'll go first. I'll go first. Then you can see what I mean, right? So I'll go first. So I feel my understanding of psychology and me as a psychologist, somebody who creates psychology,
Mhm.
I feel that my understanding and usage of psychology is world class. I have no way to prove that. I have no way to demonstrate that, but I feel this. This is just my internal understanding. And I had this idea for a long time, and of course I do pay attention and I do see, but again, it's a personal feeling. I just feel that is so. Well, that's something I don't ever say, but in this exercise, all right, now I'm saying it. Yeah, you feel a bit awkward saying it, but hey, it's something that you privately feel. I don't
Yeah.
really have anything to. I mean, how do you justify something like that? You can't really, right? But again, if you want to say something positive about yourself, kind of bragging about yourself in a way that you feel is legitimate, though, that would be, at least for me, that would be something. So to see what I mean by the example here of saying something that, well, you personally feel is positive about you, but not something that you typically would share because it can't be justified
Mhm.
necessarily. So how about you? What can you brag about yourself that's something that is not obvious for people?
It's not obvious, brag. I'm a great mom, but I also think that's obvious. I feel
Yeah,
I just love life. But I think it shows.
yeah,
I love, I'm here, I'm breathing, I'm having a good day. Every day is a good day, even if it's a bad day.
yeah,
I'm alive.
yeah,
I'm just so thankful and grateful to be alive because I feel like
yeah,
you never know
yeah,
what's on my last. But I think it exuberates in me, but I
yes.
really value each and every day to try to do the most, to try to live happy,
There you
yeah,
go. There
I
you
do.
go. Moreness, Moreness, Moreness.
Moreness.
Yes,
Yes, that's
yes.
the word I'm looking
That's
for.
that's
Thank you.
Moreness culture. Is that
Thank you.
I would say if I were to brag on your behalf, I would say something not obvious about Jill, maybe that people don't see. But I feel this, my intuitive feeling. Don't know you all that well just from our podcasts, but
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
say you're extraordinarily kind.
I am. I am. Thank
See?
you. I really am.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
See, but it's not something that's maybe
No,
obvious.
no.
It
Mm-mm.
doesn't always come out because when we are genuinely kind, especially
Yeah.
if we are extraordinarily kind, it's not always you're doing it and people don't even know, right? They
Hmm.
don't even realize that you're doing this out of kindness. I wrote a whole book as an act of kindness, profound kindness, and just how it came out, right? And just at the time it was necessary. So we don't always do things because there's some payoff or value, or you're not doing it for recognition, because then, well, it's not
Yeah.
kindness, then it becomes something else, right? So you can't have that, and it's something that's difficult to say about oneself sometimes, but we do need to learn to do this. There's no reason we cannot
No.
acknowledge our positive qualities, to say, yes, I am kind, I am extraordinarily kind. I don't do it to get ego recognition, is just a fact. And when we learn to acknowledge our facts of positivity, in other words, to acknowledge our moreness, it's a
I
huge
love it. Our
shift for most
moreness.
people.
Yep. Hmm.
It's huge. And this is moreness culture, because moreness culture is not about ego. It's not about hierarchy.
No.
It's not about dominance. It's not about competition. It's not about attention. It's not about approval.
Yeah.
None of those things. Why do I do it? Because I want to do it. I like doing it. It gives me joy. Yeah, that's it. End of story.
Genuine,
But
yeah.
exactly, I'm being genuine. Exactly, exactly. And it's interesting that you use the word genuine rather than authentic.
Oh,
There's nothing wrong with the word authentic, except
okay.
I try not to use it, even though it's an A word. I prefer genuine. Why? Because authentic has got so much baggage when you see it on the internet. Everybody's saying authentic here, left, and right. And they say it for the wrong reasons and they're using it for the wrong reasons. And it's become kind of a hype word. And so I try to avoid them when it has that baggage, because that when people are pushing it and they're using it for attention and for the, ego and for inappropriate reasons, it gets that negative connotation to it. No, I don't want anything to do with that. And then we don't want to use it. So it's amazing internally how we attach these connotations, connections, and associations to words, to terms, to concepts. And if it doesn't really sit right with you, then don't use it, because then you're not going to really use it. So it's very important on word usage like that. Now, of course, you can override that and say, I don't care how they're using it, I'm using it appropriately. But still, it's very interesting to me. It's like appreciation and gratitude. Gratitude is also one that's a bit overused. And there's actually a difference technically about, more technically, but if you really think about
Okay.
appreciation and gratitude, if I'm appreciate something, I'm not connected to it. I'm just appreciating it. But when I'm grateful to something. Yes, or grateful for something.
Four,
There's a
yeah.
relationship, right?
Mhm.
But if I'm appreciating something, I can do it and be miles away. I have no connection to it, no interaction with it. I can still appreciate it, right? But grateful has that implication that I've received something and now I'm giving the gratitude back. Yes. So in
Yeah.
other words, it's somewhat reciprocal. It's a little bit of a contract involved. And that doesn't sit right with me. I love to appreciate things. I appreciate everything, like you. The moreness of life. There's so much wonder. But am I grateful? Not really. Why? Because you didn't really give me anything. You know what I mean? I'm not grateful to the tree for anything. I appreciate the tree, but I'm not
Yeah.
grateful to the tree. See what I mean? I can't be grateful to the tree, but I can appreciate the tree. So big difference between grateful and appreciative. Yeah, and appreciation, it's one of the A terms. So when I was making the list of books that I need to publish, one of them is the Dictionary of Power, and which is coming up. We're going to be talking about it later on. But the Dictionary of Power is also the foundation of the language of conceptuality, like we're talking
Okay.
about now, right?
Yeah.
To conceive of what appreciation is and to conceive of what gratitude is. We kind of sort of know, but when you think it through, especially if you think it through to the end, it really gets to be something different. Like I said, with appreciation, we don't think of appreciation. It's not as often used as grateful. But grateful, why does it come in? Because of superiority paradigm. Yes. In that
Yeah.
hierarchy, dominance, yes, those up, yes, you must be
Mm-hmm.
grateful to those above you, and those above you want the gratitude from below. It's a hierarchical thing, and yes, it shouldn't be. But that's the problem. Should is very corrupted, and it's really a sad thing. And should has become really a horrible word, actually, for the most part, right? It's how our goodness gets subverted. But when we really think through and understand these concepts, wow, I really now know what I
Wow.
understand what I
Yeah.
mean by appreciation. I can live more. Yes, I have something that's useful, that's powerful,
Yeah.
that connects me, and I feel it in all of me. I'm not just using the word because I'm supposed to, right? So when we unhook from should and supposed to and must be, it's profound. It's profound. It's revolutionary. So that's probably the next book I'm going to publish after the Ask Biella books. It's called 50 Ways to Be
Wow.
Smarter Using Opposite. And that
Uh-huh.
and that's one of the ways to be smarter using just simply take should. And whenever you use should, just go to the opposite of that. And more or less, right? Now, this opposite doesn't mean exactly opposite. It's
Yeah.
like, what's the opposite of green? Well, it can be any color,
Yeah. I'm
right?
like, I
So
don't even know. That's a good question.
right. I mean, I think technically, if you go
Yeah.
to color wheels and all that, then you can say this technically, but yeah, in reality, it doesn't matter. Any color is different, but you're just going away from the green spectrum, which I guess you can have some blues involved or whatever. You go and then you more or less move sides. So this is part of the philosophy of opposite, which says you go to it's like you're going to an opposite planet and then you move laterally from there. Now you get a nice view of things, you get a nice perspective, and now you're in a whole different space. Now your options are profoundly different. So this is how you can be smarter using opposite. And when we apply it to should, whenever you hear this word should and you say, well, what should I do? Let me just go to the opposite and then kind of move sideways from there and see if I find. You'll be amazed. You'll be amazed. You'll be amazed at how powerful this is. Unhooking from should is one of the most powerful things we can do, because not that all the shoulds are negative in themselves necessarily, no, but we do things without thinking simply because there's a should involved.
Yeah, I get it. Makes sense.
I mean, where's your choice? In
Yeah.
other words, am I a robot just going along should? Yeah, whatever. Right? I lose my individuality. And now you may say, well, I want my kids to be listening to me. And when I say you should do this, but wouldn't you prefer them rather to kind of really think about it, think it through to the end, and then decide?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remind us, Syl, how we contact you, by the way. We are just tuning in. Syl Sabastian, tell us who you are, what you do, how we contact you, and then we'll continue.
Yeah, Nobelia.org/connect. Very easy. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, very easy, very easy. And we're happy to take call-ins. I mean, if you open the lines and put a phone number, I'm always happy to hear.
Okay, so, hold on. Lines are open. 631-307-4010. 631-307-4010. Obviously, if you have any questions.
Brilliant.
Give us a call.
Yes.
Thank you,
we do like questions, comments, anything. They mean a lot, and I take them very seriously, and I love questions. All right, so when we get back to this conceptuality and opposite, it's astonishing when we start to look at it. You can almost take most of our culture and just turn it upside down. Like, for instance, take superiority. What's the opposite of superiority? It's not inferiority. See, you don't want to have that. Moreness. Wow, that's very opposite too. See, but it's opposite, but not the diametrical opposite.
Yeah.
So when we understand, it's more about difference, alternative. Wow. So Moreness culture really shifts things. And also, Moreness culture, right? There's one profound difference that's very simple, and it's to shift from ambition to aspiration.
Okay.
We taught, when I grew up, my parents were all into ambition. To have ambition was like the number one thing that they sought in their children as a positive quality. Be ambitious, right? They thought this was like the be-all and end-all of everything.
Yeah.
Now, we grow up in the superiority paradigm. Yes, ambition, you must be ambitious. But what does that mean? That means getting status, getting fame, etc., right? Maybe wealth, but mainly it was about your image, how you look, your appearance, all this. Does it necessarily make me happy? No, does not necessarily make me happy. I can show you a list of successful people. They think that when they get there, right? What is midlife crisis? Burnout. That's when people realize, oh, you know what? I've got a good income. I've got a good house. The children are grown up. They've gone through college. But now what? Now my life is spiritually empty.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. See?
Oh, I don't know. I'm worried about that when the kids leave, but I'm like, I think I'm going to enjoy that time alone.
Yeah. Well, if you're already focused on moreness, then you're looking for, it's already in your life. Just this idea, this one simple concept of moreness will automatically lead you to that more, right? Whatever it is. I mean, yes, you may get to a stage, okay, I can now do the activities, my hobbies, but hobbies don't necessarily include moreness. They don't necessarily nurture your spirit or your soul, right? So moreness is going even past and beyond that, right? It's depth, there's real value in there. But of course, we can find value out of anything, but it's to have that mindset, that attitude. If you already have that, you're getting there. And beside which, when you understand that the sublime is in the mundane, what did you just say, Syl? Said, yeah, the sublime is in the mundane. It's just a perspective shift away. That's all. It's going to shift your perspective, right? This is Moreness culture again. It is, those two profound conceptions of one, thinking things through, to the end. It's always written in all caps. The to the end, you got to shout it. And then the other one is perspective shifting to multiple perspectives. When you start doing this, to see the sublime in the mundane, you're practicing perspective shifting, this
Yeah.
ability to perspective shift, right? And especially if you look at things from multiple perspectives, we are so geared towards finding an answer. What's the answer? Why is there just the assumption that there's one answer to questions? Why? You want to do something for your kids, Joe?
Yes.
Right? Whenever you ask them a question, say, but you need to give me multiple different answers that all could possibly be applied. Right?
Okay.
Don't just give
Yeah.
me one answer, only hear multiple answers. Yeah. But we taught this in school also. It's a bad habit. The teacher asks a question and the first hand goes up. Yes, Hermione. Right? We're all trying to be Hermione, right? We're the first one to answer the question always.
Yeah.
But the teacher was, yes, Hermione, you may have the answer, but you got one. I want to hear from thoughtful Ron back there who's thinking, yeah, but okay, it could be this, it could be that, it could be this. Multiple perspectives. There are many ways to deal with things, right? Especially if they're more difficult questions, right? Okay, so you ask like, well, one of your children has a temper tantrum and you ask them, well, is this an effective way to deal with the problem? And they're looking for an answer. Or what is an effective way to deal with the
Yeah.
problem? There's the implication, there's an answer. But if you say there's multiple, there's a ton of different ways. Once you get your kids to give you multiple answers, it changes their brain. They immediately start looking at everything they're doing, whether it be problem or joy or play or work or learning, doesn't matter. As soon as you start looking at multiple perspectives, your creativity just goes through the roof. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And not only your creativity, but also when you actually in a situation, and like, for instance, if you're in a work situation and you're in a team
Mm-hmm.
and you've got a difficult problem, right? Everybody comes up with their individual ideas. The team leader will then take all those ideas. They now benefiting from multiple perspectives, even though everybody just shared one idea. But you can do that same benefit for yourself by looking at things, and you'll be surprised. When you start to develop this ability to look from multiple perspectives, combine that with thinking things through to the end, and your life changes. Everything changes. You'll be astonished. All right. So just take it when it comes to anything that you want to
Okay.
do. And you start taking a multiple perspectives. Well, okay, so you like a girl or you like a boy, right? I don't know if your kids are that old yet. Your kids were what? 5 and 7, 5 and
7 and
9,
9. Close. 7
7
and
and
9.
9,
Yep.
7 and 9. Yeah. Somebody else's children are 5 and 9,
Mm-hmm.
7 and 9. All right. So maybe still a little bit early, but either way, right? Or just maybe as a friend, and you say, well, what do I like about them? Typically, they
Mm-hmm.
come up with one answer, but if you say, can you give me multiple answers? Oh, yeah, I like this and this. And then it starts, and then your brain starts. This is
Yeah.
emphasis, right? How the brain works. The moment you start thinking, what else, what else, what else, it suddenly starts flowing. And suddenly you have a long list of things. Wow, I didn't realize I liked so many things about the person. You've suddenly enhanced your life. You've found moreness, right? Just like that. Just like that. Very simple. It's a profound, profound skill. It changes everything. And, especially if you're doing things too, whatever your job is. All right, let's just say for writing is a very, very excellent, useful technique for writing. Come with multiple perspectives, different angles. How can you do this? How could you solve the problem? Okay, so my hero is doing it in this way. All right, well, what about if he did it in this way? What if he
Mm-hmm.
did it in this way and fails, and then he does it in this way and fails? Well, now you've got a whole book because you've got 10 different ways that they're trying to solve the problem, and that's your story. But if you only had this habit
Yeah.
of one answer, one angle, one path, one perspective, you're wasting your time. All right, we'll leave it there. We'll come back next week. I want to talk about habits.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I know I'm like, we're out of time. Thank you, Syl. Remind us one more time, Nobelia.org, Nobelia.org. Is that good?
That's perfect.
Thank you so much,
/connect.
Syl. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. hon.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.